Salutations fellow knights, I'm Chevalier and I bid you welcome to the situation and guide of Fixie and its upgrade manchu. As you can see right now, I have conquered quite a lot in these 30 years, to the point where I reached Muscovy about 7 years ago, and well, being in an overall situation that is very favorable to me. The primary reason that I stopped this campaign at this point in time is because Ming is breaking down, the Terminators are breaking down, Novgorod has an alliance with me, and Korea can be attacked as well. This is the primary reason, and also you can also count this in. I have a 655 sorry, leader, a Kathun, which is a female Khan, and she was rolled by using the disinherit button until I got a disinherit. So that's why I got a little bit lucky on that side, but you can do it as well. Same goes from the institution, but still that can be done with a little bit of help and a little bit of well, planning. Now, the situation right now has diverged too much from the initial parameters, which means that it's not valid to play more than past this point in time. Although I can focus on Chagatai a little bit and focus on Uzbek, but still the primary target with this campaign, with this situation right now, is to attack Ming, because they're quite weakened, Korea as well, and Muscovy as well. So overall, this campaign had to be stopped because, well, it's too easy at this point in time, and it usually is not that easy. Ming usually breaks free, get destroyed by, let's say 1530. Around that time, Ming gets destroyed 30 minutes by, let's say 1490, something around that line. And the Ottomans also are a lot bigger, I would say. So in the 30 years, like, they should have taken order course back and attacked Mamluks at least once, got the lands from these guys as well. So yeah, usually they would have been more powerful. So overall, this campaign is going to become quite easy and cannot be showcased as a standard campaign, but it can be showcased about it can be a showcase about how easy this campaign can be. Next, I'm also going to talk about the situation and how you should maximize it, and also talk about the expansion guide and how you should maximize your strategy of attack and whom you should attack and when you should attack them. I'll also go through some of my saves so you can actually see this campaign at some point in time, but usually I will not go past the early game, and that is the first 50 years, simply because, as you can see, things can diverge from the initial situation quite a lot depending on the luck that you have. Overall situation. Exists threat sandwiched between the Manchu tribes and Korchin, which actually means that they have to tread lightly when wanting to expand. Although this can be easily done by attacking Yeren and Burasha, because they usually don't ally anybody, they might leave you open to a Jiangsu Korchin attack, which is gonna be quite problematic. You'll require some big allies and some sort of backing that will help you survive in case you get attacked or deter somebody from being attacked. At the same time, you have, I would say, the most potential when it comes to admin points, because of your decent ruler, and also when it comes down to cash and trade as well, because you can actually hit Beijing. But we're going to talk about this more in detail when we go into those steps. Economy. Cash-wise, Haix is doing okayish, Jiangsu will do better, and Yeren does worse. They can get more cash from trade by doing some cheeky stuff there. We'll talk about that in the trade tab. At the same time, you're mainly gonna rely on looting and raising to get your cash, which I recommend doing plenty, and also trying to maximize your cash income by actually killing your maintenance when you're looting, or when you actually siege something and they have no armies. This means that you're gonna have to be a little bit careful to kill their army, or try to keep an open eye on the enemy troop movement, so that you might want to put up your maintenance up or get it out to half. Then actually, when you feel like the trouble is coming, is brewing, you'll put it up to max and retreat. Some sort of stuff that will actually maximize your cash income, because you're really gonna have trouble with cash for, well, the rest of the campaign mainly. Other than this, you're not gonna be able to afford any advisors. You're most likely gonna rely on tax as well, so try to have the 5% from having one stability. Other than this, there's nothing much more that I can say other than no forts. No forts, no missionaries, no fleet, no nothing that will cost you cash that you won't actually use. Next, we're going to talk about trade and how you should get more cash from trade. Trade pause, you're not doing that great, and you're not gonna do that great for the basically rest of the campaign. Not the rest of the campaign, rest of the early game and mid game. You're most likely gonna collect in Girin, and you'll have the England Center of Trade in Girin, and basically collect with one merchant from Beijing and collect with one merchant from Nippon. That is about it, and there's nothing much more to say on the collecting with merchants. They're gonna stay there for quite a while. Your main focus should be on switching to Beijing first. Once Ming breaks down, or you attack Ming and take your course back. Once you're in Beijing, you're gonna gain quite a decent chunk of the trade here if you're really smart and you put up a fleet or anything of that sort in the Beijing area. If you actually put your merchants here, you're gonna gain 0.2 ducats from Beijing, and you're gonna gain 0.5 ducats from Nippon. Remember that Beijing is gonna have a lot more trade, mainly because they will actually move the trade from Yume. They'll move the trade to Beijing, and Beijing is gonna have like 15 ducats, something of that sort, a lot of trade power. So Beijing is gonna be your main trade node for the first 100 to 200 years, and later on you'll move slowly towards Samarkand, Persia, to Constantinople, to Venice, to Genoa, to basically this side here with some ease. I mean, if you saw the initial video, you'll see that I reached Crimea quite early, so you'll probably be able to move to some degree to these new territories here. One thing that can be done, it's moving quite early all the way here and try to get as much trade as possible from this side by pushing all the possible trade to these trade nodes. But again, better be safe than sorry. Just collect in Girin, and later on when you feel safer that you have more control, you're gonna get more cash from those trade nodes, just switch your port to those trade nodes. Other than this, you have 5% trade efficiency, you have the trade range of standard to 100, trade steering at 0, so nothing that important. The hordes are mainly built for attacks. You have global trade power that is tied to your prestige. At the same time, you have 10% merc. Not that great, not at the max that has like Genoa with like 40 merc or something of that sort, but you're gonna gain events for mercantilism. Other than this, some winner bonus, but nothing that important. Keep in mind that you should switch to collecting to Beijing as soon as you feel that you'll gain more cash from Beijing. Other than this, there's nothing much more to say. Next, we're gonna talk about the estates. It's just one estate, so it's gonna be relatively quickly. Estates. Estate-wise, you have only tribes. They control Al-Ksha and Yehe. First of all, you'll want to raise a host and recruit a minister. This will give you the 74.9. Before it was 79.9, which means that you'll gain a 50% modifier, not a 20% modifier. That's why you have to take the minister. The raise a host is gonna give you a general with 20 tradition and give you 15 influence, as well as actually giving you 5 cav in a random province. It's usually Yehe, sometimes Al-Kasha, depending on your luck. The support tribes is gonna give you loyalty for cash, and the contributor is gonna give you manpower for loyalty. This can be done at the same time, so you can actually gain manpower for cash. Other than this, keep in mind that these guys will demand more control the more you expand, so try to use vassals as much as possible. Although once you take your course back, once you form Manchu, they'll actually demand 30% of your development, so that can be done as well. Try to give them control over lands that have a high amount of autonomy. Other than this, they actually have autonomy at 50%, which is quite annoying, so keep in mind that you should not give them lands that have a decent amount of base tax and a decent amount of production basically here. And they'll give you, once they have control of a province, they'll give you local autonomy 50%. They're gonna give you local unrest -2 and local manpower modifier, so try to give them to provinces that have a decent amount of military points, or at least are at equal the number of points. Other than this, there's nothing much more to say. try to keep in mind that once you form Munch, you're still gonna remain a Horde. Once you form Kin, you're gonna switch to the standard estates for the basically monarchy. That will be the trade, the nobility, and the clergy. Other than this, there's nothing much more to say on estates. Next, we're gonna talk about government. Government-wise, you are basically Canet, a step nomad Horde. You have the national manpower modifier plus 20%, the land force limit modifier plus 20%, the looting speed plus 50%, the institution spread minus 15%, the reinforced cost minus 50%. Other than this, you have the diplomat plus 1, the number of states plus 5, national focus cooldown minus 5. This is simply done because you are a kingdom. And other than this, you can also upgrade to Empire when you have 100 total development, or when you actually switch to Kin, which is most likely that it will happen. Other than this, you are part of the culture of the Chinese, which is quite developed and quite big, with the primary being the Manchu over here, whom you're gonna form with some luck in the later stages of the game. In maybe the next 10 to 15 years probably. That's the most likely scenario. There's nothing much more to say on government. Next we're going to talk about court. Court-wise, we have a 3-3 who is well connected, advisor cost minus 20%, age 19, and we have an heir who is 1-3 with a bold fighter, shock plus 1, age 24. This guy should be made into generals and killed right away. We're going to talk about this more in the military tab. For focus, you should have it on admin, and keep in mind that you'll need admin points quite a lot, mainly to boost your stability as soon as possible and any other traits. Other than this, you might want to get the national tax modifier guy plus 10%, or the yearly inflation reduction guy minus 1% per year. Keep in mind that those guys are quite good, and will help you alleviate some issues. They most likely pay from themselves in the later stages of the game, mainly because this guy is gonna get you more cash, and that guy is gonna save you more cash on his costs and any other costs for troops or for buildings. Other than this, on the military advisors here, you have the national manpower modifier guy from the states, a +2 for half the cost. It's quite nice as well. Do keep in mind that it's impossible for you to actually keep 2 advisors alive with your current cash flow. At the same time, I can probably pull the military advisor guy with some difficulty, and with the relative ease I can pull off the admin advisor guy. But you have to be really OCD about how you use your armies and how you use your reinforcements and how you fight, so that actually don't lose cash or you don't have to build more troops. I'll talk about how you should maximize those in the military tab. Next we're gonna go to diplomacy tab, and we're gonna talk about who should be your rivals and whom should be your allies. Diplomacy wise, first you'll have to actually check this and see how they actually fare in opinion to you. Basically, as you can see, you can get an alliance with the Oryat and get perhaps an alliance with Ming later on, and an alliance with Sage Yorick or Karadel, although this should not happen. So your main ally for the early part should be Oryat, and they should just safeguard your backside so that you don't get attacked. If they actually call you to war, just cancel the request for the joining of the war, so that you're not gonna join them and they're gonna be destroyed, because most likely they're gonna be your enemy in 5 to 10 years. Other than this, for your rivals, it's quite simple. They are Jianzhou, Fortune, and Yeren. Pretty much it. Although something can be said, if you want to attack Burasha first, if you want to attack Yeren and Burasha, try to keep a slot available for Burasha as well. Other than this, try to use this as much as possible, so that you can see whom they're gonna ally. For example, Yeren basically is not gonna ally anybody, because, well, everybody hates him. Perhaps the Oryat is gonna ally them, but it's highly unlikely. Korchin is most likely gonna ally Jianzhou, and Jianzhou is gonna most likely ally Korchin. Burasha is not gonna ally nobody. And basically you can use this tool to actually see everything that you want to see in the early game, and see how you actually want to ally and whom you want to ally, and see your your basically overall opportunities. Other than this, keep in mind that fighting these guys is gonna be tricky, so just recommend that you actually have more troops than they have. But Oyat is gonna safeguard you against any enemy attacks, to the point where I will actually say that you should kill the alliance with the Oyat in 1 or 2 years. Once you see that Chenzo attacks Yeren when they're weakened, or Korchin attacks Borussia when they're weakened, at any point where they actually are occupied with another war, so you can actually backstab them. Other than this, there's nothing much more to say. This is mainly a talk about the expansion guide. Next, we're gonna talk about the tech tab and what tech should you use, and about institutions and how well do they spread into your lands. Technology. Tech-wise, you have embraced the feudalism, which is quite nice. Other than this, you'll want to actually boost up Garen so you can get the Renaissance up. Boosting up Garen should be done until you actually hit around 37. That's probably around the 125 cost per development at max. Other than this, for the colonialism, you should actually improve Yehe or Ningguang. Yehe has 9 development and Ningguang has 6 development, although Ningguang is part of Ming, and it's gonna be part of your luck if you actually can get Ningguang and improve Ningguang. Yehe should be your primary target for improvement. Other than this, the printing press in the 1550s, it's gonna be, well, you're probably gonna hit Germany by this time, and you're probably gonna actually take this probably the Baltic around the Prussia and the Livonian Order region, so it should probably spread to you basically manually, so you won't have that many issues. For the rest, for the global trade, for the manufacturers, for the alignment, you're most likely not gonna get them, simply because, well, this actually happens in the entry node. You have to have manufacturers and you have to be in Europe, I think, and quite a lot of development. In alignment, you have to be England, basically an England type of monarchy, English monarchy, so that is quite hard to pull off. Other than this, let's go back to the text itself. On the admin deck here, try to use the modifiers of -5%. You're 100% gonna get the modifier because Korea has a 655. You have to take Hun Kun, so you can have a agency bonus with Korea, which can allow you to have the -30% there, which is quite nice. Other than this, for Diplo here, you should try to save your points so you can get the first idea. And for military here, you should try to take it before you go to a war, when you feel threatened, and try to use the modifiers as much as possible here as well, because you need to save some points. You'll use for sure military points to actually boost Garen. Like, I'm 100% sure that you're gonna have to use military points to boost Garen, but there's no way around it. Other than this, there's pretty much nothing to say. Keep in mind that you'll actually have to boost up Garen, and try not to boost Garen up until you actually have the Renaissance available. So until the Renaissance hits and starts, try not to boost up Garen, because it's gonna be a waste of points. Yeah, this is all for tech. Next, we're gonna talk about ideas. The Manchu ideas are built for war, and more war. Their ideas are excellent for early game conquest, so let's just go through them really fast. The land maintenance modifier -10%, quite good, especially when you want to go to full cav, and it's gonna be quite problematic to actually pay for those amount of troops. You have the Leander Shock +1, and then max you have the Leander Shock +1 as well. Excellent. You have the corporation cost -20% and national manpower modifier +10%. Excellent. You have the tech cost -10%, which is quite good, not that great but decent nonetheless. You have the discipline +5%, excellent, very excellent. You have the cap compatibility, excellent as well, +20%. You have the manpower recovery speed, would have been better if it was national manpower modifier, but still quite nice as well, +20%. You have the national rest -2, excellent as well. You have the stability cost modifier, which is shit. There's not much more to say, that stab cost modifier is really crap. Overall, the ideas, as I said before, are built for war, and killing. But yeah, Manchu ideas, built for killing. National idea wise, I recommend taking the standard land expansion. that means influence, followed by admin, followed by religious or humanist, followed by a military idea. You can actually go for exploration, then a military idea if you actually want to go for exploration, but it's not recommended. Simply go for quality ideas on the military tab. For more information, influence, take it fully. For admin, take it up the second idea, adaptability. Then you can actually save points that you can take the next tech. That means that you can take either religious or humanist. Then you'll actually want to go for the military idea here, which is quality. Now, there are several options here, and I'm gonna go through every one of them and tell you what are the best pros and cons of certain ideas. So, influence ideas are simply gonna give you the cost here, annexation cost minus 25%, and the aggressive expansion impact. These things are huge. These things are really huge. This actually means that you're gonna actually expand faster at a lower cost, and also at the same time you have the vassal force limits contribution, which is gonna give you more force limit. At the same time, it's gonna give you more income from vassals. For hordes, this is really important because their horde unity is gonna go down like a madman. It's really gonna go down, and it's usually gonna go down fast if they have multiple lands. So building up your horde unity is quite hard. So that is why we actually go for influence ideas. For admin, it's quite simple. The admin and influence ideas form the policy for minus 20% integration, vessel integration act for the diplomatic annexation cost minus 20%. So less cost for annexation. At the same time, they give you cooperation cost minus 25%, and overall they give you more advisors. Some of these are crap, but at max they give you states, and states are really important in this patch, simply because you can have more cash from states, especially in the early game. If you have 5 extra states, it means that you can have a bunch more cash basically. I mean, especially for Europe is quite good, but it's good here as well. For the religious ideas or humanist ideas, this is where it comes really tricky. For humanist ideas are good for medium to low level players, mainly because that they're gonna allow you to keep your land stable with no rebellions once you actually integrate your vassals. Religious ideas, on the other hand, they're gonna actually allow you to basically convert those lands really fast, although you're gonna have to suffer the problems with the rebels. Although religious has a better option of giving you those vault. That means that you're gonna have a free CP, which means that you won't actually have to stay a horde. You can actually switch from a horde to kin to a feudal monarchy. Sorry, really speaking too much. To feudal monarchy, which is gonna allow you to actually have a more stable land and allow you to actually have less cost for troops. Go for infantry as well as cav. Go for more build up more troops. Not suffer some problems with rebels. Overall, have better tech costs, better everything. So overall, it's quite nice, and it's gonna give you a little bit more of an oomph. So you can actually continue on expanding using both the vassals with the doseful CB and feeding the vassals. At the same time, taking important provinces using the core creation cost, using admin points, because you're gonna have huge amount of core creation cost, especially when you actually want to. You should split it between Europe and China. China taking it using the admin points, and the part here using in the Europe using the vassal points, the diplo points and vassal points. And that's pretty much it. Another option is to go for a military idea first, which I recommend going for quantity, followed by influence, followed by admin, followed by religious, followed by exploration probably, or whatever floats your boat. I haven't included humanist because if you actually want to go for quantity, you're gonna have plenty of manpower to actually keep those vassals down, to keep those rebels down. So there shouldn't be any issue with keeping the rebels down when you have the quantity ideas. And this is pretty much it on ideas. Next, we're gonna talk about the decisions. Missions and decisions when I actually switch the map. Missions and decision wise, the Manchu have a decent number of them. They mainly rely on forming the Manchu, of course, and also forming kin, as well as having some decisions that can actually give them more troops, as well as giving them the Forbidden City as well as having some flavored events that give them some advisors, some points, as well as some decent modifiers. They have also the standard decisions for being the Tengri, as also they'll have the standard decision for being the Eastern religion, that will mean being the Confucian when they actually switch to Kin. Other than this, to actually form the Jurchen tribes and form Kin, we're gonna talk about soon when I actually switch the map. In order to form Manchu, you need to hold Hunkun, Girin, and Hingan. Once you actually form, once you actually own this and you actually form Manchu, you're gonna gain permanent claims on the regions of basically North Jilin, Central Jilin, South Jilin, and Jiaoling, with permanent claims on West Heilianjiang and East Heilianjiang, basically the full Manchu area. Right, so let's just do it so you can see what happens, and you're gonna switch the... Yep, yes please. And you actually form the Manchu. Pretty simple, pretty easy, should be done about 5 to 10 years into the game, depending on how fast you are and what kind of opportunities do you have. Other than this, we're gonna talk about how should you form king next time. Also, if you actually see this, you see that you actually can create a standard army, green standard army, and create 8 banners. This is basically the simple troops that I talked about earlier on that you actually can get really fast. These are 60,000 troops that they can actually replace your own troops. The green standard army should be taken when you are low on manpower, because this way you won't actually waste manpower. The green standard, the 8 banners, sorry, can be formed with no actual cost. But remember that your ruler has to be a general, and you have to own Sisigar and other basically parameters that have to happen to actually form them, but they're easily accomplished. In order to form kin, you need to hold Beijing, Ningguan, Shangen, and Selingol. Selingol is part of Mongolia, that as you can see here I annexed it. And to form actual Ming, you need to hold Beijing, Ninggun, and Shangun, which are part of Ming. So you need to attack the Ming pretty soon. Other than this, once you actually form the Qin dynasty, you'll actually gain permanent claims on several regions. If you actually take a look here, you'll gain permanent claims on the South China region, Xi'an region, and North China region. So this, and this, pretty much wherever Ming is actually expanded right now, you're gonna gain claims on those regions here. And let's just form kin. Remember that you're rich an empire and you're a culture union right now of Chinese culture, which means that these lands can be kept down and under your control with relative ease. As you can see right now, you have also gained permanent claims on your vassal of C, which I actually released, so that I should showcase you this. Also remember that you're gonna gain claims on Taiwan as well. Claims on Taiwan, which are also permanent claims, although they cannot be seen here. Once actually Taiwan gets released or happens by event, you're gonna be able to conquer these lands with relative ease. Other than this, you're gonna also gain the sort of Forbidden City here, that you need to have stability as 3 to convert to build it. It's gonna give you some stability, cost modifier, and yearly prestige. Even though you'll spend 50 enemy points in time, they're gonna be by the end of the game they're gonna be in your favor. And yeah, this is the basically national decisions, events, and missions that the Manchu have, basically the Manchu tribes, and also forming kin. Quite simple. One of the best nations to play as, to be honest, to the ideas. But yeah, next we're gonna go into stability and talk about the stability, which should be really short. There's nothing that important to say here. Remember that some of these forts have to be cut. Once you actually form kin, some forts have to be cut here, but this is a talk for the expansion guide. Stability and expansion. Best tab ever. For stability expansion is quite simple. Reduce for exhaustion if you feel the need to. Remember that moving troops from one side to another is going to be really long, probably a year and a half. So the war exhaustion is going to be removed in the meantime. So unless it's at 3, at 4, do not try to reduce it. For stability, boost it to 1 next month. So you'll have the +1, so you can get more cash from tax, as well as having more unrest, etc., which is quite nice. Other than this, try to keep it at 1, but try not to waste that many admin points. Try to focus them on actually building development in Kirin, so you can actually get the Renaissance faster, and also getting texts and ideas faster as well. On overextension, try to switch over, split the load overextension between you and your vassals. By this I mean that you should keep some lands for yourself and give them to your vassal for coring, then actually give them the rest. Basically in rates. Give them the first rate, basically like a mortgage. Like paying the mortgage, basically. That's what you do. The vassals, you're gonna pay the lands in mortgage to your vassals. Right? Quite simple. Other than this, keep in mind that if you actually do this, you're gonna incur the cost for corruption and incur the cost for other things like prestige, diplomatic reputation, and any other things that actually are gained from having high overextension or any overextension as well. For rebels here, keep in mind that your vassals are gonna have rebels and you can see them on this tab, and you'll have to fight them to some degree. So keep that in mind as well, that it's gonna be an uphill battle to actually keep your vassals alive. On expansion here, if you want to go for exploration ideas, I recommend going for the native coexistence policy, because you don't want to spend that much with those territories. Unless you really want to be heavily focused on this, I recommend going for the native repression policy, but keep in mind that these natives on this part here have 5,000, 7,000 amount of troops, and high ferocity and high aggressiveness, so that you're gonna have to fight them, either kill them from the start or just actually keep a high amount of troops there. Either way, it's not that great, so that's why I recommend going for the native coexistence policy. Other than this, once you actually form king, you're gonna have extra 5 states, and once you actually get the full admin idea, you're gonna have extra 5 states, so that's gonna be golden for you. You're gonna have plenty of states that you can work with and plenty of cash, but this is basically a long way into the game. And this is it. Next tab is gonna be about the religion tab, followed by military tab, which is the best tab ever. Religion. Your religion is Tengri. Because of this, you can have a syncretic fate. For you is confusion. At the start, you can actually switch it to everything you want. You can actually see the modifiers here for what you want to pick. You have 100% religious unity. You cannot become the defender of the faith because you're a pagan. You have the basic value of missionary strength, as well as having tolerance of the true faith at 3. You have the tolerance of heretics at -2, and you have the tolerance of heathens at -3, as well as having the stability cost modifier -10 and admin cost -10%, because you have the singular effect of Confucianism. Other than this, there's nothing much more to say here. You cannot convert to other religion, and you have the secret effect, which is really fine. Later on, when you actually take more of this stuff and you switch to kin, you're gonna actually switch to Confucian directly, and that's gonna give you more different decisions, different events, and as well as give you, well, a whole new set of troubles, basically. Well, you actually have to convert tons of lands from Tengri to Confucianism. Next, we're gonna talk about the military tab and what makes it so good. Military. Finally, hordes. As you can see right now, the first thing we did is to make our heir and our leader into a general, and also we got one more general from actually having the race host option here from the states. You can see here you have a force limit of 15, and we have 11 troops, as well as having a naval force limit of 12, of which we have 0, and we'll have 0 until the rest of the game because we do not care. Other than this, you have some discipline as 105 because you are a horde and you have horde unity, which gives you discipline and national unrest modifier. Defensiveness at 0%, combat width at standard of 20, no forts, and try to have no forts for the rest of the campaign if at all possible. Now, let's go into the special traits of the hordes. You can have 100% cav. To remain to 100% cav, these guys have to be killed, and have to be killed in combat, which is the most efficient way. Just kill them in combat, then actually consolidate the infantry, so you can actually be safe. Also, the hordes have 25% combat modifier in steps, so try to lure your troops, enemy troops into steps so you can actually get more combat modifier into the steps. As well as they get the minus 25% combat modifier, but they're not in steps. So try to be careful with that as well, because it's really annoying. Now, some other tips and tricks that you should learn as the hordes, especially in this region here. Level 1 forts. Siege value is really important. With level 1 forts you can actually just take the capital and before they take yours with siege value, and you can actually piss them out with having no troops lost to attrition, to combat, only to attrition. The only exception is Yarkan and Chagatai, because Yarkan has a level 3 fort and they are a vassal of Chagatai. So they are the only exception. And of course Ming and the big guys, but usually the hordes just have only one level fort. Now, what you can do is try to trade or try to force your enemy to come to you, basically into the steppes or in any favorable situation. For example, over a river here in Alukusha, which is also steppes. Pretty much baiting the enemies. This is part of your overall strategy that you can use as a horde. Other than this, if you go to full cav, you should have a really good army. Like, you should probably squash anything under your hoofs with no apparent issues. Keep in mind that you're gonna have cash problems if you have full cav, so try to actually loot as much as possible. At the same time, try to actually kill your cash as much as possible when you have no enemies. For example, I've squashed the army of Yeren, no armies left, and I'm just sieging and looting. Just kill them, the cash carry maintenance, so you don't have to actually pay for them. This can be said if you actually, let's say Jianzhou is at war against Oryat because they're allied with Karadel and Oryat attacked the Karadel. So the Jianzhou army left all the way to Oya to fight. Now you're gonna declare war on Jianzhou and try to siege this, but you don't need full maintenance. You just need half maintenance or a third maintenance, so you can get reinforcements, so you can actually siege all this. So basically, for the time being, before Jianzhou comes back, you can actually have maintenance set to 0 or 1/3. Then when you see Jianzhou coming, like when they hit Jiram, you can actually put up again your maintenance and actually rendezvous in Hunkun and basically defend Hunkun while they actually besiege all of their lands here. Pretty standard stuff. Try to not waste that much cash. Other than this, there's pretty much nothing to say on the tabs here. Military wise, try to be really careful and try to actually do this for your air. If it doesn't have siege value, in my campaign that I showed you at the start, this guy had 2 siege value, I couldn't kill him. But if you actually do this, he's dead, you can actually get a new one. Quite fast, quite efficient, quite nice. And if he doesn't have siege value, it's even better. And if he doesn't have, of course, if he doesn't have like 4 shock. I mean, if he has 4 shock, like, I love him. I love him. But yeah. This is pretty much it. There's nothing much more to say. The sea is not your friend. Do not build any ships and no forts. Next time we're going to talk about the expansion guide and how I should expand as Haixi, as Bancho, of course, and I'll showcase you the save that I had previously at several different times, basically at 5 years, at 10 years, whenever I went. Before I went to a war or in the middle of a war when I actually saved. But yeah, hope you enjoy this, guys, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.